Alright folks, we're going to get started here in just a second. Hang on. Okay folks, we are going to go ahead and get started. Having some, as always, technical issues. Also, Mr. Drusi is in quiet mode today, so he's going to be answering your questions in chat. If you have questions, Mr. Drusi, are you there? Text something in chat, or chat something in text. Type something in chat. Okay. Okay, there we go. We're good. All right, so let's go ahead and continue where we were last time. And we need some way to make things easier. All right, but either way, let's just go ahead and get going, and then I'll wrap up some questions as we go. We have a MCPS alerta as we speak. Let's see what it says. Please read this information. Meals, Chromebook distribution. All right, so this is happening real time in case you were wondering. Okay, so we are wrapping up 13 and well, going over the last part of 13 and starting going over the first part of 13 and going to continue and wrap up 13 today. Let's see, where are we? We are okay, so we made it through lists. We are now able to add items to a list and remove items from a list. We have these very basic tools. It's not super incredibly useful to just add and remove things. The key is about accessing them and in order to access them, you need to know obviously their location, and you hopefully remember, or probably remember, how tedious it was to go through each um, item in a list and figure out its location. And because it's so tedious, there are lots of different tools that you can use to make it easier to access things in the list. So we're going to listen to this guy and see what he has to say. Do I have... Is this on mute? Why am I not hearing this?
One of the benefits of lists is that their length can grow and
Sorry, folks. There we go.
shrink over the course of a program. One of the benefits of lists is that their length can grow and shrink over the course of a program. But that means it can be useful to find the length of a list at a given point in time. You can get the length for a list like this: numList.length. When your program runs, the computer will replace this with the current length of the list. In this case, the length of the list is 6. A potential point of confusion is that even though the length of the list is 6, the last index is 5. This is because we start the indexing at 0. Because lists change size, a common issue in programming with lists is, what's the index of the last element? We typically find out using the expression list.length minus 1, and you frequently see it used to access the last element of the list like this: numList, and in square brackets, numList.length minus 1. Lists are a very powerful way to store and maintain data in programs. They open the door for us to write programs that use and process lots and lots of information, especially when we don't know ahead of time just how much information needs to be stored. Let's try them out.
Okay, so there were a couple of major concepts just dropped on you right there. Well, we'll work through them as we get going. I think, does this one start right away with we start with the list app here in a second, which is essentially the basics of an array, is just working with the list. So like the last, I don't know, 10 bubbles are really just about that app, which will be a project, and we'll figure out some ways to access or to assess that more MCPS alerta. All right, so some important, the list.length, the importance for that, there's a couple different reasons why it's important. Is sometimes when you're doing like a loop and you want to do something to everything in that list, that's an important reason, or to locate the last item in a list, that sort of thing. So if you remember from last time, if we console .log, let's say words, if we console words, that's this array. It's going to console the entire thing. If we do words.length, it's going to tell us how many items are in that list. There are 15 words in that list. What about bits.length? There are 35 ones and zeros on this. And what is the way, well, one way to use that is, so let's say we did console log words index, and you say index 2, which would be the third item in this list of words, which, let's pick out a different one. Let's do index 3, which would be the fourth. Okay, so when you're referring to a item in a list, you are using the square brackets, and the name of the list or array and its index combined is essentially, it's not essentially, it is using that to retrieve whatever is here, and those are the same thing. It's retrieving what's in that spot, in the fourth spot, the index 3, and you can apply it however you want. Now, referring to a particular item in a list, you put in the uh, inside the square brackets. But if we wanted the last item, we would get it at, okay, words index words dot length minus 1. Okay, it's kind of tricky, but inside of the square brackets here, you are looking for is where you put the index of the item that you're looking for. In this case, in the list words, we want words in the position of however long it is minus 1, which is the last thing, because again, we're starting from 0. This is another just sort of, you got to deal with it from 0. So in this case, this is the last item, or it is the index of the last item in the list words, and we're getting it from the list words. So I don't know. Okay, so yes, the last item in the list words is there. If we did the last item in short at index short dot length minus 1, it would be the last item in there, which is another string practice. The key is everything in this bracket is a number, a numerical value, which we are getting by figuring out how many items are in the list, and then the last one is in the index of one less than the total number, because we start from 0 again. Okay, so lists, oh, I guess that was the point of this one. Finding the last item in a list is length minus 1, the name of that list, length minus 1. So this is what I just did on the last one. And okay, so like I said before, everything that is inside of these square brackets is referring to a particular index in the list. Okay, remember, start index 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever, all the way through. So if you wanted a random item from that list, you would use the name of the array and then in square brackets a random number call instead of an actual number. You wouldn't, there's not really a situation where you would hard code in my array like at index 2 plus 3, because if you're typing that code in, you might as well just type in 5. But if you do want it to be a random item from that list, you could do it this way. If you had another variable, you could have it, this would pick out an item 2 more indexes down the line from whatever x is equal to. But the tricky part of this is that if you're going to do a random number, the key is the range. Random number from what to what? Well, if we want to pick out a random item from this, we would do, let's see, it's console.log, and we're going to console.log colors index. Let's say if we just wanted a particular one, we would do colors.log, console.log colors index 2, which would give us the third item. But if we want a random number, we're going to put it inside of the square brackets. And what is our range? I'm going to put some spaces in here just to make it a little clearer. Okay, so console log. I don't know if that helps. Okay, so inside of our square bracket, instead of a particular number, we're calling for a random number. But what is our range of indices? Our first one is 0, so we want a random number between 0 and what is the name of the last index? The name of the last index, or the number of the last index, is however many there are minus 1. So it would be colors.length minus 1. Okay, so this is our, every time we run this, we're going to get a random number between 0 and however many there are minus 1, because what we're asking for is going to be going to fill in the square brackets for the index, because we're looking for to pick out a particular one, where Okay, so green, indigo, orange. If I got rid of this, if I just did a random number between 0 and colors.length, hopefully, eventually it'll say undefined. There we go. Because the random number that came up was between 0 and 1, 2, 3, between 0 and 7. So if 7 comes up, there's nothing in index 7 because we start with 0. So this is all the way up through index 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's nothing in index 7. So when I ran this and the random number 0 to 7 came up as 7, it checked for something in the box for index 7 and there was nothing there, so it came back undefined. Okay, so that's the ability to find the last thing in a list. And it's not just about finding the last thing in the list, it's about knowing how many there are, and when you get to a certain thing in the list, do something else, or do something to every item in the list. These are all reasons why you would need the list length. And when you're writing longer programs, lists could be however, forever. The point of this app, the My Favorite Things app, it's a basic list app. It can be, this isn't a terrible idea as long as you add stuff to it as a general idea for your create task. I definitely wouldn't start with their design elements. I'd start from scratch, but the idea of having some sort of list thing, I would add multiple screens, and we'll talk about that. But this is just a basic list app where you're starting out with 3 items, tells you how many items there are, and you can add things to them. Okay, so now there's 4, it goes around, and we go, now there's 5 things, goes around. Okay, so it adds things, and we'll talk about how to remove things also. And so let us start from scratch since I've done this a bunch of times. The first thing that it wants is to rename the elements, which it's not a bad idea. It's not super critical as long as we're not getting farther into, having a ton more items or a ton more buttons and inputs. I would say it's okay. Maybe, I don't know. For now, it's probably fine just going ahead with what they use. You can always go back and figure out, especially since everything's on the same screen. But if you're building from scratch, I would definitely give much better names as you go. We're just lucky at this point that there's not that many things that need to be referenced. So you can just kind of go forward from that. All right, so we are starting from scratch with the code. We are trying to come up with an array that's going to be our basic thing. We're going to name it, oh, you can't go back. Let's name it fav list. And we're going to start with just an empty array. Okay, all that's doing is saying that this variable favList is going to be an array. It has to be an array. You can only do array things to it. You can only use it in an array manner. And so it's initializing it that. The example that they give has us adding 3 things to it, which you can do append item to fav list and append whatever the 3 items you want, or you can just sort of start with them in the list, which is fine. Let's go, if you're going to use words, which is what we're doing here, it's got to be strings. I'm just going to start with this, which will help us keep track of order. But yeah, all right, so there's our array. We have 3 things in it, and we have given it a name, and we've added 3 of our things, and I think that's it for this bubble. Next one, we need to set the text. Okay, So we're going to set text of, the name of this is text area 1, which if we go here, we'll find text area 1, and we want to set it to that item. The problem is that using set text unless okay, so I'm not sure if it's this one, but we're going to need another variable to keep track of where we are. Let me see if it's, is it this one? Yeah, create a global variable is this one. We are going to set text. Let's just do what they want here, which is to set text of text area to fav list index 2 would be the last thing. If we run it, it would just go to whatever the third thing in the list is. Not that hard. But that's not super useful. We want it to set text to, or be able to change what the index is. And if you want something to change, you need to use a variable. So we're going to create another variable called current index. And we're going to set it equal to 0, or start it equal to 0. So we're going to set the text of text area 1 to fav list index current index. Okay, so this variable current index will keep track of what item in the list we're on, and allow us to keep moving it. So at this point, it's only going to go to the first item because we set it to 0, but we're going to use some other tools to be able to manipulate it. Okay, create a global variable 0 global. Okay, global index variable set text. Okay, yeah, so that's it for now. We have a variable that we can change so we can get to different items in the list. Okay, so now we need the ability to cycle through our list, and so we need some on event handlers, or some event handlers. Some on event, you can drag out the thing and say on event, this is called button 2. When button 2 is clicked, do something. This is button 1. You can always go back to design mode, click on that user interface element, and go over to events, click on insert and show. Okay, so this is button 1 is the last one, button 2 is the next one. So if on event button 2 is clicked, we want the current index to go up by 1. So the easiest way to do that is current index plus plus. Remember, plus plus is the same as gets itself plus 1. And on when we click the back button, we want current index to go down by 1. That's minus minus. Okay, so at this point, it will kind of work. We will go here, and we'll go to on event, button 2 is clicked, current, oh, no, it's not working because after we click, we need to set the text again. So every time, I'm going to copy that down here. So when each of the buttons are clicked, when the button is clicked, the index will go up, and then we will reset the text area to that item in the list, which here, okay, 2, 3. The problem is if I go past, you get an error because I was already at the last item of the list and I hit next, current index went up by 1, and now to index 3 for the fourth item, and since there's no item there, it's checking for an item in a spot that doesn't exist, and so it broke it, and now we need to fix it. Okay, same thing if we go forward and back again. No luck, it's broken. Okay, so yeah, next one is where we fix that. Okay, so we have write a function, set text, place code, add event handler, the last button, move forward and back. Okay, so yeah, that's the same thing. I did both the forward and back on the same one. This should still work. Yeah, okay. And this is the one where I don't know why they talk about the add one before we talk about the wrap. Okay, so um, bubble 28 is about making sure that when you go past the last item, it if you're at the last one, it goes back to zero. Bubble 27 is about the ability to add an item. I'm going to solve the other problem, the wraparound button problem first. And the other thing is setting this item up here, labeled 2, is just a regular label, but we want to set its text to the current index or the current item in the list out of however many items there are. So we are actually going to add that. I'll take care of that right now. Sorry for being out. Okay, so this item, this is called label 2. We want to set label 2 to a concatenation of current index plus, well, it's actually current index plus 1, because when we're at current index 0, we don't want to be item 1. We don't want to be item 0 of 2. We want it to start out at item 1 of 3. So label 2 is going to get current index plus 1 plus of plus however many items there are in the list. So favlist.length. Okay, and we don't need to do -1 this time, because what item we're on out of however many items there are. So when we start out, it should be 1 of 3. Okay, and it's not going to update because I only have it running here outside of I only have it running when the program starts. And you can see I'm using the same thing over and over again. I'm going to create a function and call it update text, and I'm going to put these things in it. And now I'm going to call it at the very beginning of the function. And I'm also going to call it every time I change something. So let's put it here. We'll get rid of this. And we'll put it here. We'll get rid of this. Okay. So that should make things easier. So every time I click forward or back, it's going to set this. So 2 of 3, 3 of 3. Also, I'd like some space between the numbers and the words, so we'll put that in there. Okay, so now we have the number item that we're on. We need to solve how to go around. So update text is when this is set. Before update text, we need to check to see if we've gone out of bounds. So button 2, this is the index going up. So if when we add 1 to current index, we need to check to see if it's farther than it should be. So if current index is greater than the last index, what is the last? The last index is dot length -1. So fav list dot length -1. Okay, if it's -1. If it goes past the last item, we want to set current index to 0. Instead of going out of bounds, we want it to go back to the beginning. Gets 0. Okay, so this way, when we go around forward, it should go back to the beginning. Okay, but we need to do it to go backwards also. Backwards is broken. So we now need another um, we need to check every time we click a button. We're going to change something, check to see if it goes out of bounds before we update text. So when we click back, if current index, if it goes too far back, if current index is less than 0, we want to set current index gets whatever the last item in the list is, and the last item in the list is .length, list.length -1. So fav list.length -1. Okay, so, and then why don't we, just for debugging purposes, every time we update text, let's console log current index, that variable. Okay, so let's go like this. We'll run it. Okay, we'll go around, back to, goes all the way around, go the other way. Okay, you see it going around there. Okay, so that's good. All right, the other problem of adding an item, we should, hopefully this stayed the same. Yeah, stay the same. So we need an ability to add an item to the list. So we already have an add button here. It's called button 3. Let's get an event handler from it, and we'll click on it down here. So this button 3 is add an item. So on event, when the button 3 is clicked, we are going to append item to fav list. And, oh wait, we're not going to append item. Append item just adds it to the end, which is fine if you always just want to add something to the end. But if you want to put it in a particular place, we want to insert item. And in this case, we want to insert an item to fav list. We want to insert it at current index. And what we want to insert is get text. And we want to get text from text input 1. Okay, so now every time you hit add, it's going to insert whatever is in that text into the list, but we also want to update text after we do that also, otherwise it won't, nothing would change until you hit next. So let's run it. We'll go around, let's add RRR, add it. Okay, so now we have 4 items, and it goes AR, BBB, and let's add, oh, here's the thing, just a good user interface tip. So I hit add, it added RRR to the second item in the list, but this is still here. We want to clear that out, so we're going to insert an item, update text. How about we set text of text input 1 to blank string. That's a good way to clear it out. So let's go add. Okay, that's a lot better than just leaving whatever's in there. So it cleared it out automatically. But there's another problem, and that is, it's not addressed here. It's sort of in the can you make it better list of options, and that's, it will let us add blank items to the list. So how can we make sure that the add button isn't hit a bunch of times and adds blank items to the list? Well, we can check to see if there's any text in there, and the way we can do that is with an if statement. So if, how are we going to check to see if there's text in there? Well, we can check to see if we want to make sure that it's not an empty string. And I don't know if there is an easy way to do this without using the blocks, but okay, if, this is where we're checking to see if it's empty. If get text of, this is called what, text input 1, text input 1 does not equal an empty string. Okay, so only if there's text there, put that in, and this other stuff can go inside of or outside of it, doesn't matter. Um, yeah, it's not changing anything. So let's say run. Now we hit add and nothing changes. Um, we can put in an add, okay, and now we are still able to add things. Okay, so let's see what are the other challenges that I think that's enough to successfully complete this. We'll talk about a couple other features that you could add, like, well, you could have a button that it added to the end rather than in place. That's not that hard. You would just change insert to append. But if we want to remove an item, this is a trickier situation. We need another user interface, another button. Let's add a remove button here. So this is a little trickier. Let's call this, let's call it button 4. Let's call it delete, or have it say delete item. And when this button is clicked, let's have it, I want to confirm screen. So let's add a screen, new screen. We'll call the screen confirm screen. And on the screen we want a delete and a cancel. So on this one we'll have it say delete item. And this one can say cancel. And so for this one, we can add an event. It doesn't need to be inside of anything. You know what? Let's name these better things. What is this? This button 6, button 5. Let's give these better names because it'll be easier. Let's call this delete button. Delete button. This would be confirm button. And this one we called cancel button. Cancel button and confirm button. And what did we call the other one? This is called button 4. Let's call this delete button, which is going to break what we already have, but that's okay, we'll fix it. And so let's go back to the code. There is no button 4 right now. When delete button is clicked, we're not actually going to delete anything, we're just going to set the screen to the other screen. And the other screen is the confirm screen. Now, so we run this and we go to this item, we hit delete, and so it brings us to this screen. Good. Now we need to either delete or cancel. The cancel one's easy. Cancel button, well, let's just do them in order. Delete button, the confirm delete button. We can add an event handler for that. Okay, when the confirm button is clicked, we want to remove item. Yes, remove item from fav list. And we want to remove the item at current index. Okay, wherever we are on the list, that's what we want to get rid of. And the other one, cancel button. Let's go back to the cancel button and add an event from there. When the cancel button is clicked, we can just have it go back to the previous screen. So we go back to screen 1. All right, so let's see what happens. We can still go all the way around. Let's add a few items. Add. Okay, so we have 6 items now. Let's get rid of this one. We want to delete this. Do we want to delete it? No matter what, we still have to set screen. Figure that out. So remove item and set screen to 1. We also need to update text no matter what. So every time we go set screen to screen 1 and update text, and I don't think this needs update text, but it doesn't hurt, so let's try it again. So we'll add a bunch of things. It still works out of 3 items. Let's go, let's add this, let's add that, let's add that. Okay, we have 6 items. Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of this one. Delete. Do we want to delete it? Yes. Now we have 5 items and it's gone. Let's get this one. Do we want to get rid of it? No, we do not. And it goes back. Okay, so I think that's the basic idea for all of the possible additions for this app. And so go ahead and wrap that up for or wrap that up for tomorrow, I guess. Let's see if this will work. If I can open this up without... Okay, so just some of the questions. Your app needs to store the following information. For each type of information, decide whether you need an array or variable. Okay, all the messages sent, the highest score, or a username and password. You technically could use a list for most things if it's just the first item. If it's only one item, then it doesn't need to be a list. But if think about, okay, a variable is like a box that you can put anything into. An array is a box that has lots of little compartments. When do you need just a box, and when do you want a box with compartments? That's the gist of that one. And let's see what this one is. The last one is, in general, when do you think you should do... okay, so kind of the words I just said. Okay, so that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this. Again, as long as you're keeping pace with us, within a day or so of what we're doing, you'll be fine on due dates. We are still figuring out deadlines and assessments and that sort of thing. But just keep up with it. Okay? And I guess we have a couple more minutes. We can go through a couple of the questions from the form. Let's see if this has anything that we need, that Mr. Druzy has not already texted back. Oh, okay, these are just general questions. Okay, I've in the code link below. I'm trying to use the counter for my favorite things. The app work properly, but it says none. I'm gonna try to use it, and okay, let's take a look at this. View the code and fave things. Sure, you could just call it index. That's fine. Blank text area. When next button is clicked, if index is less than... okay, I don't... if index... you're hitting next button, but you're not increasing the index. You have good if statements in there. Oh wait, you have update index. Never mind. Let me play around with this. Should have looked at the whole thing first. Okay, so your function update index. This is started out update index. Whenever that's called, index gets index plus num. Why are we using num? Probably should just be index plus gets index plus 1 instead of num. I don't know where else num is used. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that's the problem. Set text to blank text area. We also want to This is called counting corner. Why don't we a fave length? Oh, is this the problem? This is what wasn't working. Okay, so what is our set text to index plus think that maybe one more parentheses. Um, Trying to fix this. Oh, that's why you have num. Okay, so yeah, you're using parameters. Yeah, you're a clever one. That's overkill at this point since it's always up one or down one. Up. Oh, but you are. Yeah. It's not bad to use parameters on this one. You would just switch it to to minus minus or plus plus. All right, so let's see what's happening here. On event. Well, first of all this stuff that's outside of a outside of the outside of a function just runs right away. So let's clean that up. This also might be somebody's work that is that predate or they've fixed it since then. Okay, so let's put these. Okay, we have update index. Let's normally put function definitions at the end, but I want to read them at the same time. So we have two things going on. We have update index is just going to add or remove one, good, and update text is going to set the text. Why don't we nest these functions and then we only have to call update index. Update text. So every time we call update index, it does both of these things. So we can get rid of that and get rid of that. And here's a good thing: if it's not equal to this, and the add button does not. Okay, so they already solved that problem. Get text and new entry text, good. Well, let's see what we got here. All right, so it's because this index plus 1 plus of, when you update text, let's just let's get rid of that for a second. Index gets index plus num. What have I done wrong here? The next button is click if index. Okay, so you want to update the index before you check to see if, yeah, okay, so here we go. Let's do this. Let's do if index is less than fave length. Well, first of all, it would be greater than in this case because we're checking next is going forward. So we want if index is, so this could be the problem. We have a greater than or less than when we need a greater than. So let's try that. If index is greater than, set that, and here if index is less than 0. Oh wait, we don't want var. I'll fix that in a second. Index gets what are we calling it? Fave things dot length minus 1. And let's get rid of these vars because that's going to break it. And we're not using update text anywhere, but we still should be able to update index, update text. Yeah, we need to call update text after we do any of this stuff. Next button, update index, if index, and then update text. We need to run update text at the beginning also. And since update text is that, we can just go like that. Is this going to work? 103, 203, 103, and we go back. Do on the last button, update index, if index is less than, oh no, this is the other one. If index is less than 0. Okay, so that was, I think, the problem. Probably could have solved this a lot quicker if I just saw that. Okay, it goes backwards and forwards. Okay, so I think that, I don't know, it's kind of a solution to that, more or less. So there's that. All right, 20 function change text, set text command. There's a set text. Well, let's just take a look at this. And we'll view code. And so it goes through that way, goes through that way. Let's go here, let's go add. What is the question? Maybe they fixed it since then? Over change text, I have a function of change text defined there is a set text command that gets an error saying set text parameter undefined. Change text, display, fave, track plus 1, set text. Next button. If track is greater than fave length minus 1, track at 0, change text. My guess is that this has been fixed since the question because it appears to work fine. I'm not sure whose it is. Well, we'll deal with that later. And if track, yeah, this seems to goes around positive, goes around negative. If I add an item, it adds it to it. Yeah, so this one seems to be fine. I suppose they fixed it since then. And we'll be able to post a new schedule soon. All lessons to do. Yep. Just keep up and you'll be fine, and we will have reasonable expectations. All right. So if they, okay. So for the assignment for my students, the check-in assignment, just all you need to do, make a new Google Doc, put it on the, are there instructions somewhere? Yeah. Add a Google Doc with your name on it, submit, add a comment if you like. I don't know why that doesn't show up where you guys are, where you see it. But yeah, so let's go ahead and, nope, I can't just add a comment. I don't know when you guys, what your end looks like, if it looks like this, but the instructions are somewhere available. Okay, are there any other questions? Was a bit of a delay. Okay, so if you have, again, if you have any questions, just go to the add it to the Google form, which is down here. Let's see, leave that up here. We'll get rid of this. Let's see what Mr. Drusi has added. AP to survey. Okay. So take that, go through that when you get a chance. It's just a questionnaire. And let's take a look at which one this is. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and go do this. And some other things that may have been up here since you've looked. And there's always good stuff up here. And I think that will about do it. Mr. DeRusi has been adding links to the streams, so you can find it from there. Also, there's just the YouTube that, I don't know, I guess you could subscribe if you want. I don't, it's fine if you don't. All of the videos should be available at any time. Okay, so I think that's about it. Unless, Mr. Rusi, do you have anything else to add? That's the fastest.
No, I'm good. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm good.
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Hey, everyone. No, I'm all set. You covered everything. Great job.
Good. All right, folks. We are going to go ahead and call it there, and I'll put the stream time up sometime tomorrow's stream at some point tonight, so you can check. Okay? I'll see you guys tomorrow.